Hello, my name is Dr. Kevin Mercado. I'm a chiropractic doctor and a certified personal trainer through NASM. In this unit, I'm going to be covering cardiorespiratory training concepts. The first concept we're going to cover is type of cardiovascular exercise. There are quite a few types of cardiovascular exercises that an individual can perform. I'm going to cover just a few of those types. Number 1, walking. Number 2, jogging. Number 3, sprinting. Number 4, stair climbing. Number 5, cycling. Now, one of the most important concepts pertaining to cardiorespiratory training that every trainer should ensure they always consider and always incorporate within their cardiorespiratory training program is the work-rest ratio. Now, we all know that the time worked is extremely important, but what we always have to remember is the rest time is just as important, if not more important. As a strength and conditioning professional for more than 20 years, what I have found that seems to be missing in many of the programs coaches at the youth level fail to incorporate is the time given for rest or recovery in between cardiovascular training sets. Let's go over some examples. Now, if it takes me 10 seconds to complete that set of runs, I should, as a coach or trainer, ensure that I'm allowing a 10-second rest or recovery time prior to beginning the next set. That would equate to a 1-to-1 work-rest ratio. Now, a 1-to-1 work-rest ratio is prescribed for a very fit athlete. For an athlete that requires more rest, we can provide a 1-to-2 work-rest ratio where we are running for 10 seconds and resting for 20. Now, the amount of rest you provide as well as the intensity of the exercise is dependent on the fitness level of the individual. Here are 2 examples of how you can safely and effectively incorporate a rest period into your cardio session for your client or athlete. Number 1, a recovery period of 10 seconds after your client's 10-second run. I will use an M to demonstrate the example. This example will be the individual running from the bottom of one side of the M to the other, sprinting at max intensity for 10 seconds. The recovery period will be 10 seconds at the end of the run with the athlete or client standing and resting. The second run will start once that 10-second recovery period finishes. The second example is considered what's called a high intensity interval training, which acronym is HIIT. A high intensity interval training has the athlete or client working at maximal levels, but their recovery time is a more active recovery period with the individual walking or performing a light jog. This is what the second example looks like. A 10-second sprint with a 10-second jog or walk. They can walk to the other end of the M, then they can begin their second set on this side of the M. That example calls for a more active recovery and is designed for individuals who are at an even higher fitness level than individuals who perform a standard recovery time of 10 seconds, which would be an inactive recovery of the individual just standing, waiting for the next sprint to occur. Now, in summary, the high intensity interval training is not for all individuals. It is considered a higher, more strenuous type of training program and can typically be utilized for individuals who are at a higher level of fitness pertaining to cardiorespiratory endurance. The next cardiorespiratory concepts I'm going to cover involves stage training. The purpose of the stage training is to ensure that there is proper progression within a cardiorespiratory training program. Proper progression ensures appropriate adaptation to the training program, which minimizes risk of overtraining, overexertion, and potential injury. Within the stage training, where there are 4 zones, there are also 5 stages. Now, zone 1 is the first zone of the 4 zones. Zone 1 is considered a low intensity cardiorespiratory zone. If you're using the RPE scale from 1 to 10, the individual falls between 3 and 4. And if you're using the Borg scale of 6 to 20, the individual would fall between 12 and 13 on that RPE scale. The cardiovascular exercise intensity would be considered light to moderate. Individual may be starting to sweat, but can still carry on a conversation. So it could look like this. Now, zone 1 is a RPE, which is between 3 and 4. It's also considered below ventilation threshold 1, and the aerobic exercise is considered light to moderate, and the individual is still able to carry on a conversation effortlessly. Zone number 2 is considered higher level intensity. It's considered ventilation threshold 1 to midpoint. If you use the RPE scale between 1 and 10, the range is 5 to 6 on that scale. And if you use the RPE scale of 6 to 20, then it is 14 to 15 on that scale. The exercise is considered challenging to hard. There's noticeable sweating and using large volumes of breath. Continual talking is becoming challenging. So that example would look something like this. So zone number 2 is considered ventilation threshold 1 to midpoint. It is a 5 to 6 on the scale, the RP scale. If you're using the scale of 1 to 10, if you're using the scale of 6 to 20, the individual would be between 14 and 15 on that scale. Challenging to hard, noticeable sweating, and using large volumes of breath, like I'm doing right now, and continual talking is becoming challenging, just like this. Now here is zone 3. Zone 3 is a midpoint to ventilation threshold 2. If you use a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 7 to 8 on the RPE scale. If you use a scale of 6 to 20, it's 16 to 17. It's vigorous to very hard, profuse sweating, vigorous breathing, and inability to talk is limited to short phrases. Now here is zone 4. You got a minute and 45 seconds. Okay, so that was zone 4. I'm starting to recover a little bit, catch my breath. It's above ventilation threshold 2. The RPE, if you're using 1 to 10 RPE scale, it's 9 to 10. If you're using 6 to 20, it's 18 to 20. It's very hard to maximum effort. Breathing as hard as possible. The individual speaking is impossible or limited to grunts or single words. So that's zone 4. Whew. What I do for you all, huh? All right, so here are your 5 stages. Stage 1, beneficial to the new beginning exerciser. This is designed for healthy, sedentary individuals. Individuals who have desk jobs, who don't move a lot during work. They sit down a lot. Their job doesn't require them to move around. Certain teachers, although they could get up and move around, they tend to sit down most of the time throughout the day, creating a sedentary job for themselves. Office workers who sit at a desk all day long. Individuals working on computers all day. They might be sitting throughout the day staring at a computer screen. Those are just a few examples of individuals who would be considered sedentary at their jobs, and even those individuals may not be active outside the workplace either. So their lifestyle would be considered sedentary. So stage 1 would be for those individuals, assuming they are also inactive in terms of their exercise routine. Stage 2 is designed for individuals who are considered intermediate in their cardiorespiratory fitness levels. The focus of stage 2 is increasing intensity slightly by increasing the workload with either an increase in speed or incline. In these ways, we will help clients exercise at higher intensity levels and achieve greater levels of aerobic fitness. This is also a stage where your work-rest ratio would be at a higher recovery level to begin with. For example, you could start at a 1-to-3 work-rest ratio with 1 minute of work and 3 minutes of rest, or 30 seconds of work and then 90 seconds of rest. Stage 3 is for the moderately advanced client who has already obtained a satisfactory cardiorespiratory fitness level or fitness base. Stage 4 is for the advanced client, is applicable for high-level athletes and fitness enthusiasts seeking improvements in anaerobic capacity and power. A stage 4 workout includes an individual working through all 4 zones of training. A general rule of thumb is to have the individual mostly spent in zone 1, which means zone 1, 2, 3, and 4, a workout can climb from zone 1 to zone 4 and back down to zone 1. A cardiorespiratory exercise session can begin in one zone and move up and down into different zones, staying at one zone more time than other zones. Stage 5 zone consists of sport-specific training and is applicable for all types of athletes.